everyone. Thank you for tuning in. I am your host, Danny, and I'm so happy you decided to meet me at the bar. A podcast where we dive into the world of Pure Barre with a personal touch. Join me and my guests each week as we share genuine experiences, opinions, and stories that make this workout so special. Just as a heads up, this podcast is all about fun and entertainment. We're not here to offer any professional advice, nor do we represent the corporate side of Pure Barre. Now, with that said, grab your headphones and get ready to lift, tone, and burn through some engaging conversations. No sticky socks required. My guest today is Erin, and I couldn't be more excited to have her kick off this journey with us. From the moment I imagined this project, I knew she had to be the first person I spoke with. Erin is what I like to call the OG. Once you listen, you'll understand why. But beyond that, Erin has been a huge inspiration to me personally. Her commitment, her discipline, and the passion she brings to Pure Barre are things I genuinely admire. I'm really excited for you to hear her story and the insights she shares. So without further ado, let's dive into today's conversation. Hi, Erin.
Hi.
I'm finally doing it. I'm recording a bar podcast. I've been talking about this for months, and I wanted you to be my first guest because, well, I guess we'll get into that with your story. Do you want to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I love it. I'm honored to be the first guest, by the way. But yeah, my name is Erin Conley. I've been doing Pure Barre since 2016. I technically took my first class in 2015. Didn't go back for a year initially, mostly cost reasons, honestly. But ever since then, I've kind of never looked back.
So there's this interesting thing that happens every time I bring bar up to new people in my life, like a stranger. People don't really know what bar is. And so I wanted to know what your definition of bar is. Like when somebody asks you, like, what is that?
That's a really good question. I've definitely had to explain it a lot to a lot of people. And I think the closest comparison I usually make is to Pilates, which I think is something that more people are familiar with. But I basically explain it as a very core-focused, full-body workout that involves very small, low-impact movements.
That is a great way to describe it. I'll probably steal it from you because I usually say it's ballet and Pilates and yoga combined.
Yeah, and I mean, I definitely think, there's a lot of people who take Pure Barre who were dancers, who teach it, and I think there definitely is a kind of a direct pipeline from doing dance of some kind into Pure Barre because, some of the positions and the movements are definitely influenced by dance, but you also don't have to be a dancer. You don't need to have ever been a dancer to appreciate Pure Barre and benefit from it. I did do dance growing up, so I think that was probably part of what drew me to Pure Barre, but that dance is also definitely a big influence.
Okay, that's a great segue because I wanted to ask, how did you get started with Pure Barre? What was your journey like before and how you got there?
Yeah, so growing up, like I mentioned, I did dance. I started dance when I was about 3. And then when I was 4, I got into figure skating. And then that sort of became, honestly, my life for the next 12 years.
Oh, wow.
Because of that, I've always considered myself an athlete. When I was skating competitively, I was skating often 4, 5, 6 times a week. I was going to a few competitions a year. It was a huge part of my life, and it's obviously a very athletic, very demanding sport. And then, when I went to college, I was still skating maybe once a week, more for fun. I wasn't doing it as seriously anymore. And I think from there, I was really missing that outlet that I found through exercise and working out. And I think then I moved to LA as an adult, and I was trying to find kind of my new routine. What I discovered is that group fitness classes were really the best way to motivate me. If I just went to the gym by myself and got on a machine I never really knew what to do. I would get kind of bored. And then so I
Yeah.
discovered first, like at a gym, going to the classes, going to yoga, going to spin. And I really liked it. I really liked having that structure of knowing I need to be there at this time for this class. There's going to be somebody there motivating me. And then from there, I kind of started trying different fitness studios and I tried different formats. I tried a couple other types of bar first before I
Oh, you
found
did?
Pure Barre. I did.
I did not know this.
So the first one I ever did was cardio bar. I think I bought like a Groupon or something like that.
Mhm.
And that one I would say is much more dance influenced than Pure Barre. It's much larger movements, which, looking back now and being able to compare, I can see that difference.
Yeah.
But it was very fun. I really liked the structure of the class. I really liked how it made my body feel and just like the dynamic movements of it. And then I also did Pop Physique, which no longer exists. I believe they went out of business. But that one I would say was a little bit more like Pure Barre. Like we used some similar equipment and it was a sort of a similar structure of class. But then a Pure Barre studio opened walking distance from where I was living at the time. And I decided to try it because they had free classes the whole first weekend.
Right.
And so I was like, I'll check it out. I've liked these kind of classes before.
So you were already living in the area before the studio opened.
I was, yes.
So you're like a founding member of this studio.
Yeah, so I did actually, and this is kind of the funny thing, I did actually take class the very first day the studio's open. I wasn't the
Wow.
first class, I want to say it was the second one, but I didn't immediately sign up for membership because I was kind of intimidated by the price. All the classes were free that first weekend, but I was still pretty young. I was getting to know LA. I was trying to figure out my budget, and I was kind of like, I hope to come back to this, but
Yeah.
it doesn't make sense right now. And then I think it was the first year anniversary of the studio. They had an amazing promo, and I decided to go back to it. And I bought a package, and then from there, I just became more and more obsessed.
So you did talk about how like it's kind of addicting.
Mhm.
And, I would say bar is one of those where either you like it or you don't. And people who like it, it's like an addiction. You keep coming back, and people come back for different reasons. Everybody has their own motivations, but what would you say keeps you coming back?
I mean, I know for me, exercise has always been really helpful to my mental health. And I think just because I grew up as such a disciplined athlete, that has just kind of a part of who I am, to the part where if I'm not doing some kind of movement, I feel very cooped up. Like I need to be doing something. And
Right.
I think I agree though. I think a lot of people, once they get started, they go all in. On
Right.
bar, you either never really catch on or you kind of go all in. And I think what's great about Pure Barre is no two classes are the same.
Right.
You can go for many years and it's still hard. It's still different. It's still exciting. It still is challenging. So I have some like low back issues. And so I'm actually only supposed to do low impact exercise, which eliminates a lot of running or more traditional workout options. So bar is actually one of the only things aside from cycling that I've found that is sustainable for me to do even every day without pain or without injuries.
Yeah, that's actually one of the reasons I stay with it too. It was something I could do every day without feeling like my body was falling apart. Although, what you were saying, how no two classes are the same, and even after all these years, it's hard. We do have to point out we are recording after our nightly class. It was classic, and yeah, it's the hardest class I've taken. And then I go back and I'm like, oh no, this is harder. And so, do you enjoy that kind of mental challenge? Because in class we talk a lot about that mind-body connection. And I do find bar to be challenging, not just physically, but mentally. And so how do you push through class in a way that you connect with your mind and body? Because it is all mental when you really get down to it. How do you keep yourself going in class when you're like, I need to put my leg down, or, just take a break?
It's funny. I actually had a moment like that in the class we just took right before this, where it was very challenging and I wanted to take a break. I think it was in one of the seat exercises. And then I kind of thought about it and I thought, do I really need a break or do I just want a break? And then I just kept going for like a few more reps. And I did end up taking breaks in the exercise, but I realized it was more mental. Like my body could keep going if I just trusted that.
And this is not to say that if you're someone taking bar and you need to take a break, like you take a break. You know your body best and you take as many breaks as you need. Everybody is different. But going more into that topic of mind and body, do you have any personal experiences regarding how Pure Barre has influenced like your mental well-being? Because, exercise, as we all know, releases endorphins. But, I have a shirt that says Barre is my therapy, and I'm actually looking for it because I lost it at the moment. But I think it's very much true. Like, do you feel the same way or what do you think?
No, I definitely feel the same way. One thing that is kind of great about at this point how long I've been doing barre, because if we don't count that first class where I didn't go back for a year, it's been still over 7 years of doing barre very consistently. And I miss it. If there's been times where I've been out of town or I've been injured or needed to take a little time off. And that's always I'm always itching to get back to it. And I think it's been kind of this great constant for me in my life amongst a lot of other changes, like career changes, relationship changes, anything that happens. Barre has always been my constant. Now, sometimes I have a hard time disconnecting from the world. I'm on my phone a lot, like I think we all are.
Yeah.
And I really like that that's my 50 minutes where you put your phone away and it's just for you. That's all you have to think about is just doing the best that you can at that workout. So I always find that it's a great kind of mental break for me almost in my day, even though it still is mentally stimulating and challenging.
Yeah, I think it's mentally stimulating in a different way. I do appreciate that because they are classes, it's not like a gym where you just come in and do whatever you want. I do appreciate that structure, but also because of that, it is kind of like discipline. Like nobody's on their phone, nobody's talking, and you really get to focus and concentrate on yourself and why you're there. And another great thing about barre is that it comes with a kind of like, I wouldn't call it a built-in community, but there is a community aspect to it. How would you say that is for you, like your experience? Because for me, that has been probably one of the biggest things that keeps me coming back. It's the community with all the people that we meet. And so I think that also becomes a constant outside the studio. You also get to sometimes make friends.
Oh, absolutely. And I think that's honestly something that the other studios I mentioned that I went to, the other types of workouts I tried, I never really found that. And I know part of it is I wasn't going 5, 6, 7 times a week to those. But like I do think Pure Barre is special. And honestly, I think a lot of the community at the studio that we both go to is honestly thanks to you. Because I definitely have a lot of introverted tendencies. Like I'll kind of be the person that if left to my own devices, I'll show off and like sit in the corner and wave to people I have seen before, but not really go out of my way. In the beginning, I recruited a couple of my friends to start taking classes at the same studio. And that was a nice social aspect of it because it was something I could do with my friends. It was like a built-in way to see them all the time. But now I think there is this really great community at the studio. And I've seen a change where I can walk into pretty much any class and I know many people's names.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because I think, especially if you go, there's morning classes, there's
you
noon
have your
classes, there's
crews.
evening, yes, and you see kind of the same people because as we talked about, people who do this tend to
just go
do
day.
it all the time.
Yeah.
And so you get used to seeing the same people and you really get to know them and we all get excited for each other. And I think that has become a really nice part of it. And I think it's really motivating in a way too, because it's nice now to know that there's always going to be somebody that you can sit with in class.
Yeah, there is something to be said about being in a room with a group of people that we all go through the same. I don't know. For me, I feel like it brings people together because once you're done with the class, only you and that other person knows exactly what that was like in terms of, they were in the same place as you were and you got through the same hard class. So I I really like that about the classes. I think that's what also brings people together.
Yeah, and I think a lot of us that go to bar so often, I think we share some common traits. Like I think that kind of discipline, like you need to have that to be able to be so committed. And I think also just a commitment to fitness and to your own well-being, I think is something that we all share.
I mean, you are the definition of commitment to bar because the other reason why I wanted to have Erin, she's laughing, it's because I think, I don't know with certainty, but I think she is the member with the most classes at our studio. For those of you who don't know, another thing that Pure Barre does that I think it's actually very clever, they have official milestones. The first one starts at 100, then it goes to 250, then 500, so on and so forth. And you wouldn't believe how many Erin has. I mean,
Yeah,
after 7 years.
I had my 2000th class in December. So I'm at like 2030s or something right now, I think.
Wow.
And it is the most of anyone in the studio.
Yeah.
I know there's definitely, we have other members who are, 1,500 plus for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think I started earlier. I started early and I've gone very consistently.
So, yeah, I mean, that's the definition of commitment to your health. But, I gotta say, for me, sometimes people say, like, how could you go so much? And one of the things I found for myself with bar specifically is that it has never felt like when I would go to the gym and I'd be like, oh, I have to go to the gym. Because you don't have a set time, you're procrastinating. And then you're like, I just better stay. With bar, it's very easy for me to be committed to it. I don't know if you find that kind of be part of your commitment as well.
I definitely do. I mean, I think, again, it all goes back to my background in skating where I would know, okay, this is the time of the ice session that I've paid for. This is when my lesson is with my coach. So this is when I need to be there, and it holds you accountable.
Right.
And then I think any kind of group fitness is sort of the same, especially, where you might reserve your class in advance and there's a fee if you, decide to late cancel or change your mind. It really holds you accountable. And I think that structure is really nice. And I definitely think that is very motivating. And I also think the milestones are hugely motivating as well. I mean, it's really exciting to like work towards that next milestone where you get like your sticky socks with the number on it and you get a shout out usually in class and
you get to sign the bar.
Yeah. And they do so many like little nice things. And I think it makes it really motivating to work towards those goals. Like there's always a new milestone that you can work towards.
Yeah, Pure Barre is really good about that. They always have some sort of challenge going on. They have the fall fit challenge and the first 10. Like there's always something going on. And I think that is how they got me because you're like, oh, 10 classes. Like that sounds easy enough. And before you know it, you're like, I'm going to do 15 classes a month for a year, which is the platinum challenge, right?
Yeah. And what's great, I think, about the like platinum bar challenge is that requires you to really be committed for the entire year. You can't just have one really good month and then kind of fall off. It really helps keep you accountable and motivated, and you feel like you're working towards something. And I think the fact that I still feel that way, even after 7 years and 2,000 plus classes, that I'm still motivated to keep going and to see what other milestones I can reach. Yeah. I think that is really impressive. And I think that's something that as a franchise, Pure Barre does really well.
Yeah, I agree. So, with all of that said, for those who are listening and might be curious about trying Pure Barre, but they're hesitant, what encouragement or advice would you offer?
Well, I think one great thing about Pure Barre is it's very customizable. If you have injuries or any restrictions, there's always a modification for that. I mean, sometimes if my back is bothering me, like I'll know different things that I can change. And, when you start, you're not going to automatically know that. But the teachers are always so willing to like work with you and help you find something that works for you and your body.
Right.
And I think like you just try it once, and see. And I think also don't be too hard on yourself because especially the beginning of class, the warm up, it does move very quickly. And I think especially if you're not used to those kind of movements, it could probably be very overwhelming.
Yeah.
But I think give it a chance and just see how you feel after, see if you feel really proud of yourself and accomplished. And I feel like most of you will want to come back.
Yeah, I also feel that showing up, it's already more than half the battle because once you're there, you're there. The door is closed and you can't leave because everybody's doing the same thing. So, yeah. Well, I have one last question. And as you know, well, our audience might not know, but Pure Barre has different class formats, which is a thing that I like. We have classic, which is obviously your classic. We have Empower, which it's a more cardio focused class. We have Align, which I like to describe it as yoga with like some intense core work in between. And you have Define, which is more on the weightlifting side of things. What would you say is your favorite format?
Well, I think I have to say classic is my favorite because I take the most classic, but I also do really love Align.
Yeah.
I really like ideally mixing like one Align class into my week of barre. I think it's a really nice reset. As you mentioned, it's definitely much more yoga inspired. I would say like, we kind of get to lay in Shavasana at the end. It's a lot of stretching, which can be really good, especially if you're sore from a week of hard classes, but there's still challenging balance and strength portions. So you still definitely feel like you're getting a workout. It's also just a bit more zen, a bit more calming, and you get a nice extra stretch as well. So I find that to be a really nice complement to the classic classes. And I do enjoy Empower. It's funny because for a long time I didn't really do Empower because I found at first it was a little bit much on my back sometimes, especially squats or something that sometimes I get pain from, but I have learned how to do them in a way that I can manage. And then I always feel very challenged whenever I take Empower because I don't do it super regularly. And I've only taken Define once, but I thought it was really cool. And I thought it was a really interesting complement to the other formats because I think, strength training is something a lot of people who are into fitness like to incorporate. And I think it's really smart, frankly, of Pure Barre to introduce a class format that encompasses all of that.
Yeah, I gotta say, once they introduce Define and Align as part of the regular schedule, it definitely feels like a more well-rounded workout because you can get different kinds of workouts, but it's from the same place and they have a similar baseline. Well, I think that is it. I really enjoyed having you. As you know, I love talking about barre and I could probably keep talking about it. But yeah, thank you for being my first guest, for sharing your story with us. And I guess I'll meet you at the bar.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. This was a lot of fun. I could also talk about Pure Barre all day, and sometimes I do. So yeah, it's good to have a directed outlet for that.
Thank you so much for joining me on the very first episode of Meet Me at the Bar. I hope you enjoyed hearing Erin's story as much as I enjoyed sharing it with you. If you're part of the Pure Barre community and would like to share your own story, feel free to reach out. If you found this episode meaningful or entertaining in any way, consider subscribing and leaving us a review. But until next time, I look forward to meeting you at the bar.